What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Resident Evil video and welcome to the ModKid channel. Usually when I make top 10 videos, I just base them off of my own personal opinions. But the other day, I was looking at a thing that showed me all the Resident Evil games and their most units sold. As I sat there wondering what units sold meant, it gave me a really good idea for this next top 10 video idea. So sit back and enjoy as I break down the top 10 most played Resident Evil games of all time. So let's go ahead and get into the 10th most played RE game.
Hey, that must be the old mansion that Enrico was talking about.
Coming in at number 10 for the most played Resident Evil game is Resident Evil 0. This one actually makes the top 10 list thanks to the 2015 HD remaster, which seems to be the most bought version of RE0. And I can definitely say that I contributed to that because I didn't play Resident Evil 0 until about 2022, and it was also definitely thanks to the HD remaster. If that version didn't ever become available on my PlayStation 5, then I possibly would have never got around to checking out this game. But of course, Resident Evil 0 is a really awesome game, and it actually is a really great prequel to Resident Evil 1. So good job to Resident Evil 0 for making its way into this number 10 list with 4.4 million units sold.
Oh god, what did I do now? Wesker! Barry! Help!
Jill! You in there?
Barry? Get me out of here! The door's jammed!
At number 9 is definitely a fan favorite Resident Evil game, and that is RE1 Remake. Just like Resident Evil 0, I didn't get my hands on this game until the 2015 remaster. As a big fan of Resident Evil for a very long time in my life, I actually had no clue that this game even existed until I saw it on my PS4 at around early 2015, I believe. I actually always found this game really difficult to play at a very young age, so I never was able to make it very far when playing RE1 Remake, but I just recently went back to play this game to get the Every Woman for Herself trophy, and this game is an absolute masterpiece when it comes to survival horror games. So this one will be making number 9 with 4.5 million units sold.
Ada! What was that all about? Running off like that was reckless and stupid!
At number 8 is one of the ultimate classics for Resident Evil games, and that is the original 1998 Resident Evil 2. Me personally, I can say I'm pretty surprised that this game did not make it higher up on the units sold ranking, because this one has been around for many years and is a fan favorite amongst the RE community. My dad actually owned this game several years before I was even born, so I kind of grew up with this game in my house and grew up watching him play it until I was finally old enough and had enough confidence to actually try it for myself. So this game definitely has a very special place in my heart because this was actually the RE game that got me introduced to the entire series. So OG RE2 will be making its way into number 8 on this list with 4.9 million units sold. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into number 7, shall we?
I think we both know this is where we go our separate ways.
I see.
Now, to my surprise, number 7 is actually the Resident Evil 4 remake. This game just recently turned 2 years old, and it's already made its way into the top 7 most played and most bought Resident Evil games of all time. So with how new this game is and how quickly bought it's already been, I would say it's safe to say that if I made this video again in the next 8 years or so, this game could very well be in the top 3 most played and most bought Resident Evil games for that matter. It's actually pretty surprising to see a new game like this one actually be bought so many times already when there's games like the OG RE2 that have been out for several years before it and had way more years to actually be bought out than this game did. I was one of the RE fans that believed RE4 did not need a remake, so I never really played this game so much. I only beat the campaign once, and then I went back and beat Separate Ways Remake once. But this will go ahead and get number 7 with a whopping 8 million units.
I don't have time to explain. You gotta get out of there right now!
Alright, let me grab my...
The Resident Evil 3 remake is making its way into number 6 with the most units sold, and I just have to say, happy anniversary to RE3 Remake because this game just recently turned 5 years old. I remember pre-ordering this game and actually playing it right at midnight when this game became available, but as we all know, this game kind of ended up becoming a flop when it comes to a Resident Evil remake. Even though this game was bought a lot of times and very well anticipated, we know that this game did not go on to deliver a very well remake and actually cut out a lot of things from the original RE3, unfortunately. But you cannot deny the hype that was built around this game, so that perfectly explains why this one sits at the number 6 rank for the most played RE games with a whopping 9.2 million units sold. And also, quite like the RE4 remake, this game is only 5 years old, so who's to say that in another 5 years from now, this game could be even higher up on the ranking for the most units sold. But now let's get into the top 5.
It's gonna be a tough road.
Breaking its way into the top 5 rank is one of the not so fan favorite ones amongst the RE community. I remember the rumor for this one being that it was supposed to be the last Resident Evil game in the mainline series, so there was a lot of hype built around this one and a lot of people like myself that absolutely had to get this game the moment it came out. So just for that reason alone, I can completely see why this game does make the top 5 rank for the most played RE games with a huge 9.3 million units sold. I, of course, played this game on my PlayStation 3 when it was really new, and I had a lot of fun playing it back in the day, and I've even had some moments here and there where I go back and replay this game, and it's actually got some really fun online game modes with some great replayability, and my personal favorite, of course, being the Mercenaries. At the end of this year, this game will be going on 13 years old, and it's got some possibility to even make its way higher up on the Resident Evil games' most units sold.
Ready, partner?
Locked and loaded.
Suck on this, Wesker.
The time's up, you son of a bitch.
Number 4 is yet again one of the most highly anticipated Resident Evil games of all time, and that is Resident Evil 5. This one really does not beat RE6 by a lot because this one actually currently has 9.4 million units sold. Within the last year or so, I've been going through and playing a lot of classic survival horror games that I've never experienced before. But now that I've kind of gotten through that kick, I'm back on my kick of playing some of these classic RE games, and I'm currently on an RE5 playthrough right now. And this game is absolutely just a blast to go through and play for its storyline, but quite like RE6, it's also got some really good online game modes, with of course the biggest one being the Mercenaries, but also their DLCs are absolutely fantastic. When this game came out, I was still very new into being an RE fan and also very young, so this was the first Resident Evil game that I was actually hyped to play when it came out. This game right here pretty much sealed the deal for me, and from this point on, I was excited to check out any Resident Evil title in the future.
This is how you end, Ethan Winters. To ensure I never see your face again,
Now, one of the most recent Resident Evil games we've gotten is making its way into the number 3 spot for most units sold. Resident Evil 8 Village is currently one of the most played Resident Evil games of all time, coming in at 10.5 million units sold. Next month, this game will actually be going on 4 years old, so this is one of the games that's actually got potential to become the most played Resident Evil game of all time, especially if it keeps its popularity up. Now, at this point in time, I was already so invested in Resident Evil, of course, so I checked out any kind of Resident Evil game as soon as it dropped, but I was actually more a fan of this game when they came out with the update for the over-the-shoulder camera angle. I know Resident Evil back in the day was originally intended to be a first-person game, but I always thought the over-the-shoulder camera angle was the most perfect kind of camera angle and playstyle for an RE game. So I can see why this game has so many units sold, because a lot of people would have been hyped about this game and would have got it the moment it released, but when it came out with the over-the-shoulder camera update, it would have had a lot more fans invested like myself.
Dad, right? You mind if I borrow Mommy for a little bit? Don't you stand there! Do something!
Ethan, help!
Now, I'm not too sure how many of you guys are surprised to hear this one, but Resident Evil 7 will be making its way into the top 2 for the most played Resident Evil games of all time. This one has actually surpassed Resident Evil Village and all the previous ones by a pretty big margin, as this one has 14 million units sold as of right now. Now, this game is about 7 years old, actually going on 8 years old now, so I can see why this one has been bought so many times, but it's also kind of got a chance to become the most played Resident Evil game of all time if people in the future keep buying it. Of course, this one was a really anticipated game because it was a completely new storyline, and it also was pretty much the revival of survival horror when it comes to the Resident Evil franchise. I remember being about 14 years old and checking out the demo of this game and almost practically blacking out when you finally see Jack Baker for the first time when you get the key to the Baker house and try to make your exit.
You need help.
I'm sorry, I can't understand you.
You need help.
Why?
He's right behind you.
Now, at the number 1 spot for the most played Resident Evil game of all time is Resident Evil 2 Remake. This one is actually kind of close to Resident Evil 7 because RE7 had 14 million units sold as of right now, and this game currently sits at 14.5 million units sold. Just like the RE3 remake, this is also another game that I pre-ordered, and I played it the moment it struck midnight and this game became available. I would like to think that it's pretty accurate that this is the most played Resident Evil game of all time with the most units sold, because this one is quite possibly the most anticipated remake and Resident Evil game of all time. I remember for so many years and decades, people of the RE community were absolutely just requesting this to be made for so long, and to our surprise, Capcom actually delivered. I think us RE fans were actually pretty stunned when we saw that the Resident Evil 2 remake was happening, so you best believe that we were going to be getting our hands on this game immediately. And this game is only 6 years old as of now, so it's got potential to even become more played in the Resident Evil franchise. But we shall wait and see what the future holds for all these Resident Evil titles and their units sold, because that's going to go ahead and wrap up this video for the top 10 most played Resident Evil games of all time. You guys can feel free to go ahead and go down in the comments and voice your opinions on which ones you agree or disagree with, but this one was simply just me reading statistics, so this was not a list that was compiled together by myself. So take that for what it is, and just remember that these are officially the most played Resident Evil games of all time worldwide. I post RE content daily, so make sure you guys hit subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss a single video, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.